Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Challenger League Qualifiers North American Season 11. This is qualifier number 4 and the very first day of the qualifier here. I am joined today by Crater, observing for us as he often does, and a new caster joining me on the stream, Raven, all the way from Australia. How you doing, my man?
I am good, my friend. Thanks for having me on. And it's a beautiful summer day in Australia here. In the morning, of course. So, yeah, very different time to what you guys are experiencing.
I appreciate you taking time out of your day, though, even though it's not normal casting hours.
Yeah, no problem. It's going to be really interesting for me to be casting a different region. Obviously, there's different play styles, different metas, and this is the up-and-coming teams vying for a spot in Challenger League. So, going to be interesting to see how they play it out and just some different names.
Yeah, for our very first matchup, we have a relatively good game for you guys. Run It Back, one of the front runners in the qualifiers, currently sitting first place. They've won the last two open quals, so they're looking to start this qualifier off strong. Coming up against Revenue, another team currently sitting in the top 16. So, of course, the top 16 teams from open qualifiers do make it to closed quals. That's your first goal as an up-and-coming team. So a very tough first match for Revenue, but they've got some strong players. They should be able to make a dent, at the very least, keep this competitive with Run It Back. New addition to the squad as well, Stunnaboy stepping down from the roster, and Crusher stepping up to it. Of course, he's played on a bunch of different teams recently. He was on EXG 2.0 before they disbanded a couple of days ago. He was playing on some French teams in the Canada Nationals, of course, was on Supernova recently, and then of course way before that, Mess known for his appearance on EXG 1.0 as well as TSM. So he's got a lot of experience behind him. He should bring a lot to this team, and I'm really excited to see how he plays here. It was surprising to me to see EXG 2.0 disband, considering in my eyes they were probably the third best team in these qualifiers, and yet still they fall apart after losing a couple of key players. So that's unfortunate for them.
Yeah, they were in a good spot, but look, it kind of happens, right? These CL teams can be a bit of a picking ground for some of the Pro League teams if they need somebody here and there. That is unfortunate, but it's great to see Crusher stepping up onto another team, and it's going to help a team like Revenue to have a player with that kind of experience, just to keep them level-headed and keep them moving forward in a good direction. I think that's going to help them a lot against teams like Run It Back, who also have a lot of experienced players.
Oh, totally. I mean, there's some big names on this one. Shuttle and Vandal, sort of your most experienced players in terms of Pro League. Obviously, Carnage, Abanai, and Fozo round out that roster, and there's a lot of CL talent mixed in amongst them as well. I guess 4 of those players have qualified for Pro League. Not that many have actually played, of course. We do have everybody in the server. So as soon as they let us know that they're ready to go, then we should be able to go live with Coastline, which will be our map for the very first game. How do you feel about Coastlines? We get into this matchup.
I really like Coastline because it feels nice and balanced. Attacks are often won, which is great. You don't want to ever see like a really one-sided map, which we can see sometimes. So Coastline is great for that. And I think it's great for Challenger League teams, of course, to play maps like Coastline because it evens that playing field. You don't get stuck on defense having a bad half, which can really affect your mindset. So starting on attack is Revenue, and that means that they're going to be able to have some chances to win some rounds at the start.
So we'll head into this ban phase as the match has now started. Of course, Revenue on attack, Run It Back will get the very first ban. And on attacker bans, you can get really flexible, of course, here. You don't really need to ban Hard Breachers or Thatcher or anything like that. So you could see sometimes a Nomad getting off of the board, Capitao perhaps would all be common. They'll go with Habana anyways. I mean, if you're going to ban Hard Destructor, this is probably the one to take off of the board. But interesting they choose that, despite this being such a loose map for Hard Destructors.
Yeah, definitely not a critical ban at all, but like you said, the one to take out would be Habana because she can open things from a distance, and that's especially prevalent when you're trying to attack the Billiards hookah site because you can open those drinks bar wall. But the Jackal, I think that indicates that Revenue probably want to be able to freely move around a bit on defense. Other than that, yeah, I think we're probably going to see some pretty standard bans coming out on defense. Valkyrie is always good on Coastline, and then probably an Echo, maybe even the Mirror for this last one.
That would certainly make a lot of sense. Mira, you don't see getting banned as often here. It kind of opens up the fourth bomb site, Penthouse Theater in a lot of ways, but even when she's allowed, teams typically don't really go there. They don't really run a whole lot of Mira, so if she's allowed, it probably won't be a huge deal here. Echo would be the more impactful ban, and there he goes, taken off of the board. So relatively standard stuff. I mean, the Habana and the Jackal, there's different options there, but they're not weird by any stretch of the imagination. So there's your bans. We've got our teams all on the server ready to start off this round number 1 here on Coastline. And I just want to mention before we get going, Do mention in the chat if there's any audio issues or video issues with the stream. I can fix that in post, but unfortunately we're on a 4.5 minute delay as per ESL regulations, so just be patient if it takes a while for me to respond.
Yeah, and guys, just before you say it, I can't fix my accent. It's terribly Australian, so I apologize in advance.
Hey, we got the Australian and the Canadian. Nobody's going to be able to understand what we're saying, but it's fine. Here we go. On the defense, Hookah Billiards starting off. That's pretty standard. Sometimes people see, or you'll see people starting in the kitchen, but this is fine. In terms of the defense, we are seeing the Mozzie being brought out, of course. That's often seen in combination with the Mute to make attacking really, really difficult, really annoying. It's not going to be what we see here today. Just the Mozzie being brought out by Shuttle, but it's still going to be quite annoying for the attackers to roam clear effectively. And just based on that Jackal ban, it would be in Runetback's favor if they want to get a little bit aggressive, as you're sort of alluding to during that ban phase. They want to run around, they want to have some aggressive plays. It'd be a good time to do it. The fact that Revenue banned it means that they're probably feeling like they want to get a little aggressive on the more favored team. But it wouldn't be bad for Runetback to try to leverage that in their advantage as well.
For sure, I think they definitely need to do something to utilize that. I've been given a bit of a gift, so to speak, with that Jackal off the board. It does just mean that they can play a bit more safer off-site without being shut down. And as you said, that Mozzie will make it a little bit harder to roam clear. And I really like the well-roundedness of the defense lineup here. They've got some nice intel coming out with that Maestro. The Mozzie can help with intel, and even the Legion on top of that. Legion causing some delays, and the smoke being able to deny plant. It's really well-rounded, so I like that coming out of Runetback.
So already some initial engagements. Abenai taking the first little bit of damage, peeking out aggressively on the Jaeger. He doesn't die, he doesn't get any kills, so he'll retreat with just a little bit of HP loss. Not the worst thing in the world for him, of course. He's been a good player in many different teams, played a lot of seasons of CL and almost Pro League now, so you can trust him to go a little bit aggressive sometimes, and I don't hate that, especially in the opening round of a match. Just try to get in the heads of your opponents a little bit. He's about to find himself in another engagement here around the corner, but he gets peeked in his motive up on top. Abenai actually trades, and Shuttle gets a second, so there we go. Players advantage in favor of Runetback. They're going to be quite happy as they just passed that 1 minute mark on the round. Really well done.
Yeah, it was a good swift take of VIP and good trade outs there from Runetback just to ensure that they held that man advantage. And that's taking off the Nomad, so that's flank watch that's now going to be a little bit more open. And without that Jackal, again, that's going to be trickier for the attack to keep a handle on. They're going to have to be careful with their droning. And Sonar is on the hunt here onto a player in the office. He sees the head and does take out Shuttle. So now it is a 3 versus 3.
Yeah, that's not bad roam clear at all. Despite the fact that you've lost 2 players, I mean, I felt like that was a really good job by them to be able to catch out where those guys are at. Despite the fact that that Mozzie's on the board and you don't have a Jackal, they still managed to make do and clear out those roamers. Now, you've lost some players. Your key guys are still up here, so you've got the Buck who can help out from down below if he needs to. Twitch is a great gun. Zophia's a great fragger as well. So you've got a lot of tools that you can try to work your way in, whether you're coming through luggage and then into Aqua, which is where they seem to be going, or if you want to send somebody back to the hallway as well. You've got some choices here. Carnage on the couch as well. You can play there pretty safely, knowing that Habana's not going to open things up from behind.
Oh, and that's a nice long angle there from Fozo. He's going to be able to get a lot of good shots off into the aquarium position, as there are 2 players pushing through that double door, just trying to figure out the positions of these defenders, and they're playing very patiently here, Runetback. They're not trying to expose themselves at all. They're going to delay the time now that they've got these toxic babes in the pocket. And with 30 seconds to go, they're going to be sitting in a good spot to secure the round.
Yeah, the fact that there's been no site pressure means all these toxic babes can utilize just in this last few seconds of the round. It's going to be so huge for time denial. You can see that ADS doing a little bit of work. 1 frag grenade still being held by Nosk. There's another one of those toxic canisters. Carnage has to put the last one back behind him. Notices the flank coming in. Fozo takes a lot of damage here as pressure continuing to push from behind. There goes Fozo with the Alda finding Nosk. And a second for Fozo as the planter goes down. No hope at all. Runetback taking round number 1. Really well executed. Fozo with 3K at the end there.
Yeah, and he actually got downed a little bit just before that execute. So good job for Runetback to run over and pick him up, as it really ended up turning the tide of the rounds. A good defense in the end. They weren't, as you said, pressured on site from the attack. It was a good roam clear, but basically outside of that, the defenders just were really comfortable.
Happy to see it. Kitchen service entrance is where we'll head for round number 2 as these timers tick on. The Mira being brought out here. So I mentioned that sometimes she's not super impactful when she's left unbanned, but Carnage choosing to rock her. Oh, I'm being baited. It's going to be a smoke instead. Fair enough. Probably the better option. There's not, like, it's not impossible to play a Mira down on this kitchen bomb site. I think I've seen it before, but there's not a whole lot of established strategies with it. And the smoke is a pretty standard op to hold on to the service entrance. So you've got a few more options there, bringing that operator. And yeah, in terms of that last round, again, I liked the roam clear. It just maybe wasted a little bit too much time, and of course the body sitting on the floor for the attack wasn't great either. I don't know, maybe you try to hold down that aggressive play that's coming out from the roamers from run it back a little bit more. But for me, it's just speeding things up onto the take a little bit.
Yeah, and even just creating an extra dimension to it, because they had quite a bit of time as they started to push towards Aquarium. The Buck could have even jumped over that luggage balcony to go into Blue Bar, and even tried to buck below just to flush out even the smoke at that drinks bar. But that didn't happen. I think that really just assisted the defense in their comfort and being able to just chill back, delay, and allow the Maestro to do some work.
Vandal in an interesting position on the pulse. He's wanting to get an early frag if he can. He's got that information, of course, if he wants to use it on the heartbeat scanner. Fair bit of roam here, and this is kind of what you would expect coming from Run It Back. They've got two players upstairs, and then, of course, the pulse down below, a little bit offsite as well. So that just leaves two on site. Not the worst thing in the world. Revenue, this is a site where they could go for a rush, but that top floor pressure should be enough to stall it out a little bit. Shuttle looking to get one of these drones. He's got no more pests in his pocket, so he can't just snipe it. He's going to go for the shot on it instead, and he will be able to take it down. Exposing himself a little bit in that, but it's okay. He did make it back safe. Crusher is the one who's hunting for him. I believe it was his drone that got destroyed. Oh, no, it was on the Twitch. It wouldn't have been his. But he's at least got some calls from his teammate on where those players are going to be at. Going for the shots now, it's Noski, his teammate, to find Shuttle. So there goes the Mozzie, a little bit too aggressive inside of Penthouse. A big first frag, and you see as well, Abanai backing off, knowing that his teammates are gone. Fairly quick clear of this top floor coming out from Revenue.
Yeah, another great room clear, and this is a really nice, coordinated, swift push that we're seeing here from Revenue, and that's going to be some big issues later on for Run It Back. If they're not able to execute a successful roam, that's going to put a lot more pressure onto site, but what we need to see out of Revenue is them capitalizing on that. We keep talking about how their previous attack was a little one-dimensional. I think if they can really implement some vertical play here, they've got a good chance of taking this round.
There goes Noski with the second kill around, finding Carnage as well. Looks like that was through the floorboard, so you're finding the smoke down below. Those Toxic Babes were huge for Run It Back in all the very last rounds, so taking those off the board are really important, and you've kept your man advantage. So you're at the same kills they were at in the early part of last round. We've got every player alive. That's going to be so impactful as they continue to try to work their way downwards. Fozo's forced a little bit off site, just use the Buck up above. Vandal feeling the pressure now as well, sitting inside a service entrance, knows that there's somebody up above him. Trying to take this fight, but it's going to be tough, especially not with Fozo, who also eats a headshot, this time from Aura. There's the flank coming in, but it doesn't work at all as Motive shuts down Abanai. It's Vandal alone in the ace clutch situation. Going for it up above him, he does a lot of damage to Noski, but again, this is such a difficult spot to find yourself in. You're being pinched on by a couple different angles. I like the idea to get a little bit elusive, run out into lobby. There's no attackers here watching, so you can freely just rotate back behind the desk. There's somebody creeping down those stairs, and you just miss some Vandal. Some shots fire off those, so you should be aware in front of you as well. Now, again, a lot of angles. Hits the first shot, but it's not enough. Motive gets the last frag, and Revenue take round number 2.
Yeah, that was a great round from Revenue. That roam clear just so effective. And even the re-roam that Abanai attempted just got shut down really quickly. We saw great vertical play coming out of Revenue, taking out that smoke nice and early, putting them in a solid position. That was a fantastic round. And yeah, if I'm Run It Back, I'd be a little worried after that. That defense really just fell apart. It crumbled basically after the pressure that Revenue applied.
So happy to see this at least a competitive match. Worst case scenario, this would have been a 7-0 before now, but we avoid that, and I think there's always that little bit of fear. I don't think that Run It Back through these qualifiers have looked like an unstoppable team. And we take a look at the roster, and there's certainly some great names on this squad, but they're not like the menace that is PogChamp, right? I mean, PogChamp can kind of run over a lot of teams, right? And they have a lot of like 7-0 victories, 7-1s, and they really just like beat on those mid-range teams in qualifiers. But Run It Back are a team that kind of have to work for their victories, and they've done very good at that. They've beaten the top teams time and time again, and they're consistent in their low-level teams as well. But there's not that star power in terms of the names on the squad, and I think sometimes in their play it does look a little bit weaker than PogChamps. So going up against one of these top two squads, I think it's important, A, that Revenue came up against this one instead of PogChamp earlier on in the qualifiers. And also that they're holding the ground early because you don't want to let the momentum going in favor of your opponent ever.
Absolutely. You never want to give your opponent any kind of strength, and momentum is a big strength to have. And run it back sitting at the top of the ladder for sure. If Revenue are able to get a lot of rounds or even take this map, that's going to be huge for them as they are much further down in the standings compared to run it back, currently sitting in at 12th. So this is a great start from them. And if they can maintain this on their attack half, you got to feel like coming with that confidence into their defense half is going to be really, really big for them.
So the drone's already being spotted out by these defenders, so you're able to clear that out again. Of course, they've decided to stick on the kitchen bomb site, so maybe this time around going to play a little bit safer, a little bit more drawn in. The operators haven't changed at all for the defense, but perhaps their positioning has. You've still got 2 players up here in Penthouse, so maybe they're going to play a little bit more passive, but their overall general positions haven't changed much. I like Abanai's spot, just hiding down right above the hatch. He can go for a bit of a sneaky play if somebody wants to get really aggressive on the Shuttle, and Shuttle decides that he just wants to back off and let them come in. Not a bad spot to him, for him to be in. And Vandal as well, playing a little bit more on site. I like that quite a bit. Of course, he stayed alive late last round, but he was on a bit of roam, playing it a bit safer this time. You can tell that there's some adaptation coming through for the guys over on defense here. Run it back.
Oh yeah, and Crusher just missing his opportunity to get Abonai. This roam clear not happening as quick as last time though. They are starting to surround. Abonai opens it up. Sonar off the board. So it's a better start here for Run It Back, and a lot of congestion happening here in Penthouse. Abonai finds the second here. This is much better for the defense.
Oh, another kill. Shuttle racks this one. Finally, Motive goes down, and this has been such a good hold. There goes one. Noski clears out Shuttle. You still got to find one more player, and Abanai has been ever elusive. Knows that he's being pinched right now. There's somebody behind him on the window. He's got to be very careful with that angle. He just runs past the doorway, and it's free. Fozo's watching the window now, too, and he's going to hit the shot. No! Fozo goes down on the stairs. He should have a teammate to pick him back up. That's still big. There goes Vandal with a C4. Finally takes down Nosk on the window, and it's just going to be Otta left alive, finding Abanai. He's actually been the one on this window, so hunting for these last couple of players. Should be a free kill onto the Maestro. There goes Fozo. You're at 2 now, and it's just Carnage and Vandal. Now, this is not a position that's super free for the defenders. Of course, if you're Run It Back, you got to play a little bit scared. You've got, of course, all 3 Toxic Babes in the pocket of Carnage, so you're happy about that. A lot of time for Otta, and unknown if he has many drones left. He could have had both of them destroyed at this point. He's got none in his pockets. There goes that first Toxic Babe, of course, expecting where Otta might be coming from. He's going to rotate over to maybe go through a kitchen push, but this soft wall hurts him, and Vandal's on top of it. Run it back, take round number 3, and regain the lead.
It was just such a solid roam from them, getting a lot of frags off the back of Abonai, and just the positioning up in theater was fantastic. Maybe a really bad read from Revenue to decide to push into it this round. Maybe they could have approached it differently. Either way, I believe that was definitely the undoing of Revenue, and it allows now for Run It Back to rotate bomb site. They're going to try Hookah Billiards back to a site they already won.
Yeah, so if they win it here again, of course, round number 5 might be a bit of a problem because they can't go to either of the previous 2 bomb sites. But for now, the first 4 rounds, we're just going to have a repeat of what we've seen before. And yeah, of course, the mirror being swapped off from Vandal. You probably just want to play it how you did last time, right? I mean, those roamers were relatively effective. It seems like it's always been the story of the roamers for these for the opening quarter of this map, at least for Run It Back. They've found a lot of success when the roamers can get kills, and if the roamers just go down without finding anything, that's obviously been a big problem for them. But the fragging power is there. I mean, Abanai and Shuttle, those are some really big names. Some guys who have proven time and time again that they can hit those shots. So there needs to be an answer from Revenue, and they haven't found a consistent answer just yet.
Yeah, it is a bit back and forth. Something really interesting there in the operator select phase. I think that mirror bait is to ensure that Crusher keeps bringing his Twitch, and I think they're just trying to force the attack lineup to think of a mirror counter because there's no Hibana. And you could do it vertically, but that requires a lot more coordination. Twitch is kind of a band-aid solution. I think they're just trying to make these attackers stick that pick. It's just an operator that they won't be able to dedicate to something else. So let's say they don't have an IQ this time. Maybe Crusher could have played the IQ if he was certain they weren't bringing the mirror. So I really like those kind of mind games that we're seeing out of Run It Back, and that is potentially their experience shining through, being able to manipulate other teams to that extent.
I like it a lot. We'll see, though, if they want to get some frags with it. Obviously, you're never too sad to be holding the F2. Shuttle in a position for a runner, and Noski is watching. Is he going to go for this, though? That's the big question. Abonai's going for a bit of a flank. Knows that there's somebody on that window. Gets droned, though. He's still choosing to peek it. I mean, this is a ballsy play. Your teammate just died here, and you're going to follow him. There's the run out. Shuttle gets the refrag, but I still don't know that that's worth the peek if you're Abonai's position. One way or another, though, you trade a Jaeger for a Gridlock, and I suppose that that's a good trade.
Yeah, I mean, that definitely works out in favor of the defense. Definitely an aggressive play. Not sure it was the play. It probably has worked out in the end, but yeah, the attackers are going to miss that utility mid-round and even late round because of the flank watch that is just not going to be there. They have achieved a bit of control in the top 4 here, though, as Sonar has pushed through, and we see pretty much all of Revenue over at 90 hallway here, looking to push aggressively potentially down towards Hookah.
Yeah, I like the spot they're in right now. A little bit clumped up for my liking, right? 1C4 gets tossed, and you might be a little bit hurting, but there's really no position for the defenders to go for a play like that right now. They don't have a ton of bottom floor presence, so it should be fine. They're spreading out a little bit too. You can send some people more towards luggage, and that's going to be okay. Burning some ADSs, and Vandal goes for that opportunity. He'll win it. Crusher falls inside of the 90 hallway, and that's going to be a big aggressive peak that works out in the end for the defense.
Yeah, and well timed. He heard the Ash charge come out, and because of the distance, he knew that the launcher would still be reloading or he'd be switching weapon. So great timing. And speaking of timing, Shuttle gets that C4 kill. So it's looking pretty good here for the defense.
Yeah, just I was talking, they don't have a lot of downstairs presence. Well, there it is. Shuttle rotates, and he's going to be able to hit that. Great job by him. Now you're in a man advantage again, and Run It Back have done very well once they found themselves in a man advantage. Fozo with the Alda in this position was instrumental the very first time they defended this bomb site. Moto's going to be coming in through the hallway. Does take a lot of damage and gets downed, though, so it's going to be only Noski, and he's got nothing. Fozo guns him down, and it's Run It Back to take round 4 and continue their lead.
They're looking so strong on this bomb site, and I have to say, the attack still just didn't really execute any vertical pressure, and it's just allowing the defenders to sit so comfortably on site and just do what they need to do to deal with this linear push that we're seeing from Revenue, which is surprising for me because they had great vertical play when they were attacking Kitchen. Maybe they're just lacking some confidence to push below. They're worried about the roam or some flanks, not sure. I think that's the difference. They need to do something a little bit different when they're attacking Hookah.
Thankfully for them, they don't have to try it ever again, at least not against this team unless we head all the way to overtime. Of course, the format of this, there is OT. It's best of 3 overtime. So should we need all 15 rounds, that is the maximum that we can achieve in game number 1. You also have a little bit worried about time if you're either of these two teams. This game started relatively quickly, so it shouldn't be a big factor in these teams' minds, but you can't go over 90 minutes, otherwise both teams will get a draw in this Swiss system. So just keep that in your brain if you're playing these qualifiers. Don't dawdle getting into the lobby, because that can, of course, be detrimental to both squads. Look at this, though. Vandal moving over to the Vigil. I kind of like that.
Yeah, it's definitely going to abuse the fact that the roam is going to be strong, and he's going to be playing vertically, that's for sure, because we saw last time that Revenue were attacking a bottom floor bomb site, being Kitchen. They took above really quick, and I think the choice to go onto the visual is just to slow down that roam clear, because the rounds that Revenue did win, they were really efficient, and they got in nice and quick into towards Penthouse, cleared out that defense. This is just going to slow them down. On top of the fact Shuttle is sticking this Mozzie, which means those pests are going to slow down that droning even more. It's going to be a lot harder for the attack to try and clear this out.
I think the way Revenue have been playing, it's been almost stubborn from them, right? Like, they really focus on these roamers. They don't tend to give it up, even when they've lost a couple frags, even when the time's not on their side. They really want to focus on clearing out the top floor, even when that's not the bomb site. They don't really love just ignoring them. So I like that a lot. You know, you're really just investing into your roamers because you know that it's going to be something the attackers try to deal with. Now, this time around, it seems like we're seeing a similar story. Of course, Odd up on that top floor. Sonar trying to get inside of Hookah as well. So you're focusing these roamers early. And if you can get them down, I mean, credit to you. That's going to be obviously a huge help for you. You just don't want to waste too much time. And we've seen that a couple of times from Revenue. Seems to be holding them back a little bit. It's just getting a hold of these guys. And hopefully with Otta staying alive more than 10 seconds into this round, this track team will help them a little bit too.
Definitely will help with that flank watch. Having a bit of trouble here trying to take Hookah above. Oh, Shuttle almost getting those shots out onto the balcony, but again, they're not really pinching these roamers. Nobody coming through the aquarium side, so Shuttle is still sitting relatively comfortably over in the bar section. Sonar not able to get those angles, and this is stalling them out a lot here. Almost half the round burned. They haven't got a pick. haven't really got a lot of map control. This is really going to come back to bite them if they try and get an execute.
Here's an opportunity down the hallway. Shuttle knows that there's some players down here. He actually just caught a drone with one of his pests. He's not in the greatest position to get on his cams right now. Feeling a bit of pressure, but with Sonar maybe getting up onto the roof? No, he's going for this window, so even more reason for Shuttle not to pull out that cam unless he's trying to duck behind the bar for a while. Fozo's covering, though, and he could get a frag. This is probably not going to be expected from the window player. Oh, this is so deadly, especially with Shuttle about to find himself in a gunfight, but he loses it. It's Otta to hit the headshot instead, and so Shuttle goes down, and it's a one-player advantage for Revenue.
Yeah, the trade coming out from Vandal, though, at least, so keeping it even as we tick into the final minute. Sonar's going to be just blocked out of Hookah by that smoke. Motive is going to start pushing down Cool Vibe stairs. So they have finally got a bit of control. Bozo potentially undetected here, though, and he's going to get the pick onto Zofia, so that's great play from him. Really aggressive, and now in the final 30 seconds, it is a 3 versus 4, and HP low on the gridlock. Quite tricky to get this execute done.
Again, it's a long time to take that top floor, but they have done it, not without casualties. Player disadvantage, you force some players off. There's Otta outside the building also going down. That doesn't help you at all. You see Motive on the Cool Vibe stairs trying to push his way down, but these defenders, they don't need to peek him, and if they do, it's only because they're feeling confident. There goes a flash grenade, not going to be able to force a gunfight. There's the peek now, and actually not looking down the hallway. Motive loses a bunch of HP because of it. There's everybody falling for run it back. They're going to win the round off of it. Round number 5 is theirs.
They're starting to really come into their own on these defenses, and I really like the use of that Vigil Mozzie and the way they played Hookah. Just, it stalled out Revenue. They're really playing to Revenue's weaknesses, and Revenue just aren't really adapting to what Run It Back are now pulling out. And it's just these linear attacks are stalling them. I think they should have just left Hookah a lot earlier, or at least tried something a bit different to clear it out. And at the end, I think that was really their undoing, because half the round was spent trying to clear that position. And without achieving anything, it just makes the rest of the round so much harder.
So, of course, right now, Run It Back sitting in first place for these qualifiers, 201 points. They've locked in a close qualifier spot for sure. They don't have to play the rest of these qualifiers. They would still make it to close quals. But they want to play for practice. Of course, they want to play just to maybe scope out the competition a little bit more, nail down their strategies. You don't really want to take like 3 weeks off before the close qualifier starts. So it makes sense that they want to keep playing, but there's not a ton on the line for them, right? You'll take a look back down over to Revenue. This is a team that's consistently placed pretty well. Last week was their best week, getting second place. Or sorry, they only got 2 points last week. Yeah, week number 2 was their best week, getting 10 points. So off of that, that's top 8, I believe. So really good from them. They've shown that they can hang in the top 16, but they need those points. Going down 1 early in the very first round can kind of help you in some sense that you now will face like relatively easy opponents for the rest of the day, and probably a little bit into day number 2 as well. But you're never too happy about losing one of your 3 lives, because if you go down 3 games, you're done playing, and you're almost for sure not getting very many points that week.
Yeah, that's it. You're going to be closer to the edge of just being knocked out for the day either way, so you don't want to be losing too many matches. And also momentum is very important. And look, they've got some great moments here, but they're just lacking a little bit extra, and maybe that's the inexperience. That C4 almost connecting from Vandal. He gets hunted down by Sonar. No frag coming out, though. And he's just going to run away, and that is great delay, because now Sonar is going to be really worried about that position. And he's not going to be able to just comfortably push through Aquarium Balcony. Abonai does get his butt inside. Just delivery just in time. Crusher not capitalizing. And Abonai, in fact, gets Crusher in the end. So a bit unfortunate there for the attack.
Abonai has no fear. I mean, he's just going for it, whether it's the right play or not, and I can respect that. It works out this time around. He finds Crusher, who's complaining about the lag. Not much we can do about that. We're here on CUS, and there's a nice shot from Abonai to find the second of the round, going for 3, but that window has just never favored the defenders. They lose 2 to it. Otta's on the window, getting his double kill. Fozo and Abonai, the 2 former players of Obey Alliance, both falling in that engagement, and this has just been so downhill. Shuttle will get a kill, thankfully, onto Nosk, so stops the bleeding for Revenue. Getting that right onto Revenue. Motive's inside, though, and he continues it. Shuttle falls. His position being known, and there's still a ton of time left for the attackers. Look, it's a 2-on-2, and we just passed the halfway mark.
Yeah, they do have a lot of time here, but it looks like the defense have the intel advantage. Vandal getting a lot with that pulse scanner. And Revenue are going to be able to just drone this out and decide what to do. And this is where the difference has been. If they take their time and get a bit thorough, they can really frag it out with run it back. So as long as they position themselves well, they have a shot at securing this round. If they can get this to a 4-2 first half, it's not too bad.
Here's a flank from Vandal. Now he is known. Motive is watching the doorway very closely. This engagement's going to really shape up how the rest of this round goes. Could be a potential 2K if Vandal gets really aggressive with his flank, but Otta's actually gone and falling off the angle. This could be his moment. Vandal is still just waiting. He knows that there's people outside here. Carnage is sitting inside the bomb site. He's got some pings. Vandal's running, though. He's making a lot of noise. This could be a very poor play. And yes, the player inside of lobby turns around. Motive's right there, and he's going to hit the headshot on the Vandal. Beautifully played by him. Now it's a 2-on-1. Carnage all alone inside of the site. He's been a big player for a couple of CL teams. He gets the first frag with the SMG-11, looking for just one more. 15 seconds on the clock, and he's got the pings. This could be huge. No more Nitrocell, so he can't toss that out. And still sticking to plant. That's not the play for Otta, and he loses his life because of it. Run it back. Go up 5-1 in the first half.
Yeah, not sure what intel he had to decide to stick that plant, but he was getting pinged out. That's usually a big red flag if you're the one planting. Probably not the play, as you said, and that's going to give Run It Back the 5-1 first half. That's a really strong first half at the end of the day. Revenue had some great moments, but just never really able to close out any other rounds besides that one Kitchen attack that they did win. We get to see them on defense now, and speaking of Kitchen, they are actually going to go to Kitchen first.
So I believe we saw Vigil flash. They might 6-pick to it. Oh, they're going to 6-pick to the Mira instead. So this was obviously also teased over by Run It Back, where they might have played it for Kitchen. They 6-picked away from it. It's going to be a 6-pick to that. And I'm interested to see where they choose to set these up. Kitchen, probably the second best bomb site for Mira on this map. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, there's a couple of really niche ways you could use Mirror on this map. Kitchen is pretty good because I think most people do the default mirror that faces towards service, which is a pain to deal with if you're trying to do a service plan. It means you definitely have to get that vertical control so you can buck down and clear out that mirror position, ensure that it is safe. So if they have a strong roam in that VIP section, it's going to be a bit of a headache for the attack.
So, alright, let's see what he wants to do with those Mira windows. Going to be another top floor hold, at least partially coming out from Revenue. You've got Noski up here. Sonar might be playing up as well, Motive perhaps, and the Mira windows are going to go up top, so it's actually being utilized in the same way you would if you were holding Penthouse Feeder as your bomb site, but instead they're just going to move the bomb site downstairs and still play people up here. Sort of a soft hold as if the bomb site was up on that top floor, so I kind of like that as well, right? That's an interesting way to play it. Means that it's going to be sort of two phases to this attack. It's going to be very tough to clear up this top floor. Possible still for Run It Back to choose to just ignore it, but that's, of course, got its own dangers if you choose to run it that way. Diffuser on the ground outside means that they really just want to throw their lives away at this top floor and do what they can to clear out these roamers. That's maybe not what you were trying to do. Played by Shuttle. He did the work, though. I mean, he got the hatch open.
Yeah, at least he got the hatch open, and that second mirror is going to go into that service position. It's a lot dedicated to this top floor, so if Run It Back managed to get the clear, and oh my god, that shot from Crusher deletes Vandal. That's the Kappa Towers. That's a lot of utility that is not going to be used. He did use one of those asphyxiating bolts to try clear out that position. Did not work out for him though, but Run It Back, they're starting to get a lot of this vertical control. Obanai misses the shot, so this defense starting off alright.
That's a body motive. Can't... Don't worry about that. Maybe just pre-firing down the luggage hallway anyways. We've got a 5-on-3 as you were talking about. And clearly the defense a little bit better for Revenue. Maybe the strategy not something that Run It Back were expecting. Here's those phone calls coming out from Shuttle. This time he uses his utility properly. But doesn't look like a whole lot's going to come from it. Those defenders have some time to turn off their phones. It's not going to be a big issue. It still rings out, but now it'll stop. There goes the line charge as well, so a whole lot of aggression coming up from the attackers. And Sonar capitalized off of it, even though he's on the defense. Gets a kill with that line charge underway, and Kronoski just watching this player inside the bathroom. Is there really anything he can do alone in a 1-on-5? Perhaps not, Shuttle. This is maybe just going to be a time where you got to sit back and relax, because, I don't know, nobody even needs to peek you here.
Yeah, and he's stuck. Like, there is no other way out of that bathroom besides that doorway. There is no way that round was ever going to go any other way. Flawless round in the end for Revenue. Really good defense from them. Just getting their early picks. Maybe this dedication to all the utility upstairs just completely stuffed up their room clear.
It's interesting. Game mode changes Mira. Fair enough. I mean, those are good mirror windows. Those were really helpful holding that top floor. Obviously, you saw a lot of the attackers
Yeah.
run it back, kind of throwing their lives away up there. And, well, that last frag shuttle obviously just doomed because of that mirror. But, yeah, I mean, fair enough. Good hold overall from Revenue. They have a mirror again. Are they... Oh, no, they splashed it, but they're not going to keep a mirror. Vigil instead, and trading the mute off for a smoke. Hookah Billiards is the play. Relatively standard stuff coming up from them here.
Yeah, and I like that they didn't bring the mirror in the end for this bomb site. We have traditionally seen a mirror played over near that hatch behind the hookah bar, but it's a bit of a static position, and you can either flush it out from that VIP hallway. There's always one angle you can get, unless you reinforce two of those walls that face the hallway, where Motive was just reinforcing. Otherwise, you get the vertical play down in Sunrise, and so that means that as defenders, you have to play a Sunrise roam to protect your mirror position. And that is not necessarily easy to hold because there is 3 ways into that bar, essentially. It's not as difficult to clear out. So I like that they didn't stick that. And again, they've got a pretty well-rounded setup here. I was just about to talk about the Maestro, and he's actually gone.
Oh, wow. That's unfortunate. They're going to ask for a rehost, and we can do that. So
Yeah.
this will be a rehost. We'll log off the stream, and we can go for it. I don't believe it's too late. I think we can go for the rehost. So here we go. Round number 8 will end, and we'll go into the rehost. Take some time off for a moment, and yeah, this is still looking pretty good for Run It Back. Despite the fact that this half has not gone great for them, with only 1 round, then I don't know, maybe the comeback can happen. The side swap can change momentum a lot of the time.
Yeah, for sure. Momentum is going to be a big thing, and we saw that Run It Back had a lot of momentum on their defense, winning a lot of rounds in a row. And that could be just how it's going to be in this match. Maybe it is a little defender favored, or these teams just feeling comfort on defense. So it could be the story for Revenue. They might be able to run together a lot of rounds on this defense half, and it might end up being a bit of a close finish.
I do hope so. And yeah, this is definitely a legal rehost, so we're not worried about that at all. We'll remake the lobby for you guys and get everybody back in here. Unfortunate that you lose a player, but hey, at least it was early on in the round and you can go for that rehost. Another thing to talk about in terms of momentum is that if you're a little bit of a younger team, which I would say that maybe other than Crusher, the guys over on Revenue are, perhaps I can get a little bit more in your head. And if they had just started that momentum streak, right? If they just won their first round after the half swap, got in their heads like, you know what, we can do this. A 7-5 is totally possible. Maybe a 6-6 into overtime. Let's get hyped. Let's go for it. That would be great. But unfortunately, with this disconnect, they're forced to go for the rehost, and that means that this is gonna halt that a little bit. And it's always a question, maybe if rehost didn't happen, what would change in terms of the game? I'm just happy we don't have to play this 5v4 because that would certainly be an unfortunate situation.
Yeah, that definitely would be, and would dramatically change the course of the match. So that is a good thing, and I'm just really excited to see how this defense half plays out for Revenue, because that first defense looked really good, and Run It Back had some difficulties clearing it out, and they almost looked like they had similar difficulties to Revenue in that they saw the obstacle being that heavy room upstairs in theater. They didn't really figure out a good way to push it. They tried to get some kind of a pinch going, but players playing very solo meant that these refrags didn't come out, and it just gave the defense a really strong foot early. I think if that really continues, that's going to give Revenue a massive chance to win some rounds. And if they get the defensive momentum, yeah, it could really come back and could really get a close finish.
I hope so. I believe we have almost everybody back on the server. I also want to say that I hope it's just a short-term issue for Revenue. It is Crusher not in the server right now. So it was him who disconnected, correct? On the...
Yes, it was. Okay. Yeah, it was Crusher. And he was also the one that mentioned lag earlier, so...
True, very true.
Must have had some net issues his end.
Looks like as soon as he gets in, we can start up. But yeah, I hope it's not a long-term internet issue for him, because having to forfeit this would really suck, or bring in a sub would really suck, or even waste a bunch of time, because again, we are on a relatively strict time limit. At our time, there's about 40 minutes, 35 to go before this match expires, so they do need to finish the game before then. Hopefully Crusher doesn't take too much time. He's maybe just restarting his game, which is totally okay, but yeah, hopefully it's nothing bad for him. Hopefully his PC didn't just die on him. That would really suck.
Yeah, that would be really bad. Stuff like that takes a long time, and look, wire as well takes a long time
Yeah.
to close and load up. So yeah, hopefully it's not something as dramatic as that. It would definitely be good to see this 5v5 play out on Coastline because it's really starting to look like it could be a good contest.
Hopefully, as we continue to get players like back in. I think looking back towards like the overall standings right now, run it back. We sort of talk about how this is maybe not the most important match for them. I'm glad they're still taking it seriously, right? Because sometimes you can see a team and they're just like, well, none of these games matter for us. Let's just throw some rounds. But those are the teams that, in my experience, typically don't like do very well on the grand scale of things, right? Because it's more practice that you're not getting. It's more intel that you're not necessarily getting from your opponents. It's just better mental state as well. Typically, the teams that just sort of mess around after they've essentially secured a win or are in a position where wins don't really matter are also the teams that aren't going to take the important games as seriously. Maybe get a little too upset. So I think it's good mentality. It's hard to know the mentality from teams, but it seems like Run It Back, despite maybe their aggressive shenanigans on some rounds, they seem like they've got a good head on their shoulders, and that means they can certainly go far in these quals.
Yeah, I think it's really important that teams play themselves into form. Whereas if you start a bit sluggish or a bit sloppy because you're not taking it as serious, that means you actually have to have a mental shift later on, which is a lot harder. If you have to summon up extra energy to play quote unquote seriously, that's an extra hurdle in itself. Whereas if you can get yourself in the zone and keep that consistent throughout the day or throughout the evening, that's much easier. Again, because you can maintain momentum. You're not trying to do something extra. It's just what you've been doing. So it's good to see that they are just going hard straight away. Seeing those aggressive peaks, to be honest, based on these players' histories, I wouldn't expect anything different. Abunai generally has been quite an aggressive player. Bit questionable though, everybody keeping on peeking that white stairs window. Like you said, it never really worked out well for the defense.
Hey man, whatever happens, at least they got some high spirits about it working well. We've got everybody back on the server, so we should be able to get back into the match. Of course, round number 8. If you're somehow just joining us, then this has been a bit of a stomp so far. At least in the first half, Run It Back took it 5-1, but Revenue have taken round number 7, so we sit at a 5-2 scoreline here on Coastline. And what was the bomb site? Was it Hookah before? Yeah, it was Hookah. So as we go back to Hookah, no Mira is going to be played, and I am hoping that they continue to play aggressive, right? Because I think these teams shine both sides when they play aggressively. Now, we have to have the same ops. Otta randomed onto Kaid, which is not what he had before. Did they have a 6-pick last time? I think it's fine if he just 6-picks off of it to where he was at before.
Yeah, I think as long as their final lineup is the same, then it's okay.
Especially if the players aren't too concerned about it.
Yeah, I was worried he was AFK just then because, like you said, he got autoed. And even then, going into 6-pick phase, he wasn't readied up or anything. But either way, he's back now. He's on the Jaeger. And we'll get to see them defend Hookah. And what I was going to say before Crusher DC'd was I like the intel that Revenue are bringing with the Pulse and the Maestro. It's a really good combo. It adds just that extra layer. The Maestro, really helpful for late round intel. And the Pulse just general round intel overall. And they'll be able to play vertically with that Pulse as well.
Really nice to see all of that coming out. Now on the defense, they ran it, or on the attack, or on the offense, I should say. They ran it last time around, and there's a lot of oppression here, right? Obviously, you've got the 2 global operators in the game, with both Lion and Kokobi being brought out. But you've also got like a Capitao, so those fire arrows are going to really limit where the defenders can play. And then you've got some good fraggers on Abunai and Carnage as well. So this is a tough lineup to go up against if you're the defense. And they pulled it out in the very first round. But I would be a little bit concerned just looking at those operators because it is not going to be fun to play on the defense.
Yeah, I mean, I look at those operators and I just think, what a headache. It looks like absolute pain to deal with. But one thing that stands out for me here is there is not a whole lot of emphasis on vertical play. For example, no Buck. They do have the Ashe and the Zofia they can utilize to play vertically. I don't think that's what they're going to do though. So I'm really interested to see what they do. I was expecting maybe some kind of aggressive push. We might see a mid-round rush or a mid-round just push straight to site. Either way, they're starting to drone out on the other side of the map. That is the penthouse side. So maybe they are just going to get some map control and play this a little methodically with a bit of an explosion for the execute.
I mean, they are first place in these qualifiers. I'll assume they know what they're doing, but it's certainly not the most standard push that we've ever seen. So this will be interesting if it works out. The roam game, not crazy from revenue. Just given the operators, maybe you'd expect this to be all over the place, but Auda's playing relatively close. Even Motive's just in bars, so like this is a relatively standard place for defenders to play. He's not like way off the other side of the map, which is interesting to see. I guess he's bringing that visual more so just so he can stay inside of this bar for as long as possible, rather than trying to go on for like a crazy flank. And he still could go for a late game flank if he's not pinched really early on.
Yeah, and speaking of pinch early on, there's already a bit of pressure coming out from these attackers here, pushing across from that penthouse side. Clearing Evil Eye, I believe, is what that Ash charge was looking to clear. Which is going to help them a lot later on too. Pushing towards Aquarium. Sonar's pushed up very deep, very aggressively. It's a dangerous position for the smoke as he is taken out. There's a big operator to lose first up.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, the smoke is always going to be important to any hold. Motive down below, still trying to do some work, of course, popping that ERC, and he's rotated over into offices. He's got some holes up above him that he can use. Of course, most of those pre-made by the defense, so these are strats where he's looking to get up and fire some shots at these attackers. There's his opportunity, but unfortunately just missing through the bars. He pulls out the secondary, though, and he will be able to take down Abanai because of it. Really well shot by him. There goes the Ash off of the board, and you're quite successful now if you're Motive. He's still hunting for more.
Yeah, Fozo looming here though on the hookah balcony, looking to make a late pinch just so that the execute can occur. Carnage does get a pick, but that plant not successful on the billiards bar. It's 2 versus 2 here, 30 seconds to go.
Big double kill on the cool vibe stairs. There goes another body. Motive with the rotation can't do anything as Fozo just pushes in and guns them both down. Well done. But hits him with the lull as well. Run it back, push themselves to match point after that. Disaster of a push.
Yeah, Fozo just sitting nice and patiently there on hookah, and just as the execute came, it's like the defense didn't have the intel on him, or they weren't ready for that push. Either way, he did open it up, getting a nice little 2k there to finish the round. They are in match point now. That means 4 perfect rounds are required from Revenue to at least get it to overtime, and that's a bit of a big ask considering the form that we're seeing from Run It Back.
Certainly, and it's hard to say whether that was the momentum stopped by the rehost, but certainly the momentum is not on their side now, whatever the case was. They were only managed to win 1 round. That was off of an interesting defensive play. They have another opportunity. They're going to go hookah again for the 2nd time, perhaps thinking that this time they can play it a little bit better. I didn't hate their strategy last time around, right? With Motive playing down below, he seemed to be doing a lot of work. Maybe now that he's doing sort of the same thing, presumably just by the fact that he's on Vigil again, he'll be caught out a little bit easier from Run It Back. It seems like they're taking your advice, though, because look at that. Abanai moving over from the Ash onto the Buck. Perhaps that's something where they feel like if they can focus down the Vigil early, then they can take control of that bottom floor and then try to use that to their advantage rather than their opponents.
Yeah, I think that would be a bit of a play. Maybe they got surprised. I believe it was somebody playing around that drinks bar in like the billiards area that did deny the plant, and that kind of made it a bit sketchy. Yeah. So maybe that's what the buck counter is now for, to see how they use it. I like that Revenue didn't change a whole lot because, yeah, I think their setup was all right. It was more so how they dealt with it early rounds. Like that roam clear was relatively effective from Run It Back. And I think if they can stall it out a bit longer and maybe even get a pick, speaking of, there it is. Yeah, I think that'll help their rounds a lot.
Wow, the answer was apparently to get way more aggressive. Motive gets 1 kill and then down inside of the master bedroom. There he goes. Shuttle eventually finishes off his down that he'd gotten just a few seconds ago. So all right, a 1-for-1 trade of IQ going down for a Vigil. That's fair. You've also still got Noski on the roam. So the fact that the Vigil made his presence known very early on perhaps signals to Run It Back that there aren't going to be any more roamers, just how based on how the previous round went. He was sort of the only guy who was roaming, and even he wasn't too far off site. So perhaps Noski won't be expected, and either way, he gets the beautiful C4 kill on the shuttle. Really well timed, and that's going to put the player advantage back in favor of Revenue. They're looking to stay alive in this game.
Yeah, Run It Back 100% did not know that Pulse was down there. Thankfully, that could be due to the IQ loss nice and early, or some lack of droning there. But either way, Run It Back will have to push forward with a man disadvantage. They've got a lot of time here, though, so they're going to use their drones. figure out exactly what is going on with this setup. And they still have quite a bit of utility. They've still got 3 of those E1D scans on the line there, and they've still got the Zofia and the Buck. So they can get a lot happening.
Right now, it seems they're just focusing in on Aqua, and a drone goes down. It might have been from friendly fire. It's hard to tell, but that's unfortunate. You lose a drone no matter what. Otta's sitting inside of the hallway, watching for somebody inside of luggage. Nobody there at the moment. Toxic Babe's already being used by Sonar a little early for my taste, despite the fact that the attackers are in Aqua. He's still maybe a little bit unnecessary in my mind. He's tossed to the next one. And a good opening from Abanai has opened and angled. Sonar hits the shot on him, though, and that's going to be really well played with the SMG-11. That last Toxic Babe gets utilized, too. On the window, Crusher finds 1, leaving it all to Carnage, left alive instead of Aqua. What can he do from here? Probably not a lot. He's got the diffuser in hand and 50 seconds to work with, so 2 advantages. Unfortunately, 4 players on the enemy team means that this is still not going to be likely for him to pull it out. Not to be a brilliant clutch from him. Worried about a flank. There is a player over on that side of the map, but not immediately, and his person in front of him, Crusher Fialda, who ends this round for Revenue.
Yeah, not too much Carnage is going to be able to do there. So many angles onto his position, so many ways that he could have got shot. Good defense in the end from Revenue. I like the early aggression just to push it away from Run It Back. Run It Back just getting a lot of confidence with that roam clear and that early pick, and even having that pulse below just worked out so well for Revenue. And they're going to go back to Kitchen, which we saw them hold very strongly before.
Yeah, this was the very first bomb set they played in this half, and as you mentioned, they did win it quite nicely, thanks mostly to a very strong hold up top in Penthouse. Thanks to that Mira. So probably going to be a similar strategy. You're still bringing that Mute, that Mira. The Maestro going to have a very powerful Alda. Now, last time around, I thought they had a smoke. They're going to probably 6-pick back onto it. Sonar's been rocking that. No. They're going to go over to the Mozzie instead. All right, fine. I like that. You still got that same drone denial, and I think Mozzie does a little bit better than Mute does. So you're happy about that. And here on Coastline, it's not super important to deny the walls like it would be on other maps. So probably the Mozzie is the right play in the situation, and it'll be interesting to see who decides to hold up top, because probably it'll just be like Noski and Sonar, but Otta could as well, and that'd be interesting.
Yeah, I imagine they're going to play it relatively similar to how they did that first round. What I would like to see out of Run It Back is maybe an adaptation on how they push. I don't think clearing that roam is necessarily what they should do. Maybe doing a Sunrise push, so clearing out Sunrise Blue Bar, taking Hookah Billiards, so you've got that whole control of the west side, and then that will allow the defenders, or force the defenders, to start to reposition in other ways, which will inadvertently clear out the Penthouse side, or open up some opportunities there. I really want to see that from Run It Back, because the direct push last time was just shut out completely by Revenue.
Approaching into this building, and they're currently on that first floor. Of course, they just spawn, but they are opening up the Lamborghini doorway, so that's going to be an angle where they start to put some pressure onto Crusher, who's playing down below. We've got guys on the roof, though, and again, this bathroom was a bit of a death trap for them once they started to drop. Shuttle, in particular, had many difficulties here with frag grenades, and of course, just a million people watching his doorway. But this time he's brought some smokes, and perhaps he'll be able to use those a little bit more effectively to get out of that bathroom. We've got a little bit softer of a hold as well inside of Penthouse. They're not super comfortable just sitting in there. Noski's back in, Motive is going back and forth. Maybe playing 1 by 90 as well. Vandal opens things up, though. Gets the kill on Otta, so that's the pulse off of the board. You find that frag, and you're a little bit more comfortable in terms of clearing this top floor. They're not taking your advice this time, and they're deciding that they don't want to just ignore it.
Yeah, still pushing very heavily here, and they're a bit split up. There is one playing luggage solo. He's waiting for a drone, which will finally go past to give that intel. Motive is in the hallway, and he's going to jump up to the vase as this pitch from Shuttle comes through to Penthouse. This is a good smoke, allowing them to enter, and this is starting to be very sketchy for the defense.
I like this a lot. You've got a lot of angles being held by the attack. Those phones always ringing. There's nothing the defense can do about that. Carnage still hits a shot. His teammate goes down in the midst of that, though, and a beautiful shot from Shuttle. Actually, it's going to be Sonar with a kill as well to take down Carnage. He doesn't hit that shot. He eventually, oh no, not even this time either. It's going to be finally Shuttle getting that kill on a Motive, but Motive did so much damage before he was finally taken off of the board. Wow, that was a really great roam despite so many resources from Run It Back being thrown up there, and now it's a 2-on-2.
Yeah, I like the innovation that we saw from Run It Back to actually clear that out, but they lost a lot of bodies and they're leaving a Mozzie and a Maestro to try and clutch this round out for defense, which are two great operators that you'll want end of round. Crusher did get tagged up very heavily with some long angles from that luggage hallway, it looks like. But 45 seconds to go means that these attackers have to get a move on. And Diffuser is still sitting outside service. So they're either going to have to reposition and try and get something happening, or they're going to have to go for these picks.
I think it's got to be a frag fest for Run It Back if they want to win this one. Fozo is going to rotate over to that Diffuser, so that's going to be his play. Sonar just holding like way back inside of the bars. That's not a bad move either. However, he's got to be careful in this gunfight. Some damage done to Shuttle, about 25 HP loss. Oh, and here's the peek. He's got the pings as well for Shuttle, but he still loses the gunfight. Sonar's out on top of it. Fozo now with the Diffuser walking into the service entrance. He's got 15 seconds to get these kills and plants. Oh, but he gets both of them. Fozo big play to end out the match. Run It Back, taking round number 10. A 7-3 game. And it looked like Revenue were pulling it back, but wow, a really great clutch in the end there from Fozo.
Yeah, maybe a little too aggressive from that Mozzie. He did have the time advantage, so he could have just played much safer in kitchen. Tried to force a plant or force Fozo to push aggressively and expose himself more. So, unfortunate play at the end. It is a 7-3, and Revenue looked good at times. They could have brought that a lot closer, I'd say. Just some misplays there and Run It Back capitalizing. So, in the end, a strong finish from Run It Back.
I think an expected result, more or less. We expected the other guys' Revenue to take a few rounds. I maybe would have hoped they made it a little closer, 7-4, 7-5, but I think Run It Back coming out on top was the expected result in that. So luckily to Run It Back, they go up 1-0 early in these qualifiers. Revenue, they can at least look at the silver lining and know that their next few games should be on the easier side as they continue through these qualifiers. And they're a good team. They have more than the capability to go far in these qualifiers, and we're excited to see them play later on as well. But that'll be it for their very first match. Now, don't go anywhere. We've got about 15 minutes before the next match starts up. So go to the bathroom, go get some snacks, and make sure you're back here for round number 2 of Qualifier 4 for North America Challenger League Season number 11. I'll see you in a bit.